Okay. So in order to help me talk to you about what I was doing, I got to ask you questions so that I can refine the questions that are going to get us to the promised land. The first question would be around what is it that are the people that we've been talking to, the people that we've been kind of aiming to help, what are they already using? I have a couple things written down, and you tell me if they actually are using it from what you see and add a little bit more onto it. They're using like a spreadsheet to underwrite their buildings, whether it's back of Napkin or what they would call full underwriting of their property, which could kind of be outdated in a way. They're also using like generically filled contracts. What I mean by that is the template of the contract is like a template that's been used by other people, probably even by us, like car forms and just, good stuff. But then they fill it out in a generic way, or they don't consider special things that you could put in the contract, such as different criteria and payment. How do I want to say that? Payment arrangements, different payment arrangements. It's probably the best way to say that without opening up to a whole rabbit hole of stuff. The next thing I kind of see is that their cash collected process a little bit unsecure. Meaning it's kind of like a handshake thing, like, hey, send me the money, like, give me money order. Money order works. I'm not talking necessarily about the tender or the like how the money is given over as far as like what format. I'm saying like the process of, okay, on this day, we're going to exchange this much amount of money, no more than this many forms of payment, make this check out to this person, meet me at the part. It's just like the process is all over the place is what I'm trying to say. So it's not refined. And then also with phone skills are being used on a basic level in an order taker kind of way. It's like, hey, do you want to live here? Yes. Okay, cool. What time do you want to see it? I want to see it this day. Okay, cool. How soon can you move in? This day. Okay, cool. And at any point, any one of those points, they get ghosted on a high frequency rate. They get lied to in a high frequency rate. They end up going extra month or two without anybody living in the place because of quote unquote misunderstandings that could have been fleshed out in the phone conversation. And it's not that people are lying, it's just that most people don't even know what their next move is themselves. So you have to be able to talk them through their next move. And that only comes with phone skills. They have no form of automation. It's like no real checklist of what needs to happen after the last action and in what time frame. And they don't have any system for life of the contract follow-up, meaning like, oh, it's approaching the end of their contract. Let me do a follow-up. Let me see where their head's at. Let me see if I can't retain them. Let me see if I can't, retain and increase rent at the same time and have a win-win for everybody. And by that, I don't mean like, oh, can I give them a call and telling them I'm charging them more? That's not what I mean. Can I make it a sweet deal for them to pick up the phone and go, heck yeah, I want to pay you more because you said that you're going to add X, Y, and Z. So that list of things that I told you is like things that I typically see and hear from some of the people that we talk to that need services, but they say they got it. And if they have any of these things, they don't actually got it. They just got the bare minimum.
Yeah, so my perspective on this list, what are our avatars using? From the first option that you showed, the back of the napkin, I think a lot of investors have an idea. I took the time to write down a list of things that investors that are in an investor space are concerned about that would highlight that particular stat or calculation as most important to them. Some people care about their NOI. Some people just only care about their NOI, which is their gross income minus their expenses. Some people only care about cap rate because they are cash buyers and they're just looking to know what their rate of return is once they pay the property off. Some people only care about cash on cash, which is your gross income and then your invested amount and multiply that by 100. Some people care about their DSCR. It's your net operating income divided by the total debt service. Now I'm just going to start going straight down the line of other things that they might find important, like their return on their investment, their loan to value, their gross rent multiplier, and their price to rent ratio. These are some statistics that investors are concerned about that they might have an answer for in passing, but they don't have all of them in orderly and in a way that is strategically sound. They might just have something that moves them. So, yeah, they need that. They need a full scope, a 1,000-foot view on a deal rather than looking at something that made them feel good, the thing that tickled their fancy. Yeah, they'll need that. And I'm not saying I have like a list of things that just so happens to be an answer for each one of these topics. I'm just saying that just so happened to be something I was thinking about in the last day. So I had a whole list of items there that people do look for when looking at a deal.
I can tell you right now, we do have the answer to all those things. It just would take some time to actually go through them because we've talked about all those topics and prioritize or maximizing for each priority metric that somebody would have. So
Yeah. We
I want to make
have
that
the
clear.
complete deal. The thing about the services that we have to offer is that we took the time to learn a skill that required very deep, very sensitive details that if you are overly optimistic, you can make any deal work. And if you're overly conservative, no deal will work. So of course, it's important to know what the cap rate is on a deal, but does that tell the full story? No, no. And I don't want any investor thinking that just because you do a back of the napkin and a back of the napkin is a portion of the story. You could get the back of the napkin by just getting a few stats like the number of units by multiply that by the price of the rent, and then you multiply that by 12, and then that's your gross income. Your gross income, then you add your expenses. What are your expenses? Well, depending on where you're at, 50%, but general ballpark 50%. Back of the napkin, nothing specific. This is just how you find out if the deal fits. 50% of this gross income, and then you get the net operating income, and then from there you go and take that and divide net operating income by a cap rate that you know fits that market space. And if it works for the price tag, then you know you got a good deal. And if you know that the price tag is unreasonable for that location, then you know you don't have a good deal. But how do you know that? You have to know that market. A lot of people are shopping all over the states. A lot of people just don't know those markets. So you have to do market reports. There's so much that goes into this. It's ridiculous. But it's just that even just doing back of the napkin is just to trying to streamline, make it faster. But once you know that the deal potentially works, you got to use a real metric, a real tool that's going to give you rent escalation, vacancy rates, real feasible, tangible numbers that make your deal worth entertaining seriously. And you can't do that with just back of the napkin. You might just still be shooting for the stars. Getting back to your list, the handshake cash agreement or arrangement.
Mm-hmm.
That is something that I think there's no one size fits all situation. Everybody likes things differently, and I could understand that. But the goal is to make it seamless, easy, streamlined. That way somebody can appreciate, right? This whole experience, the whole process of making funds transferable. And some people like to track it in such a way that they can just report it all via taxes and all this kind of like proper formalities. And so we have those kind of tools. It just depends on the client, right? The client should know the formalities if they don't know. That way they can take advantage of the tools that we do have that make life easier. So yeah, I see that being important. Phone skills at a basic level is like a hamburger menu. It's, would you like cheese with that? How about onions? And what about the lettuce? But there's no real communicating style, pattern interrupt, flow, tar- neural linguistic training. There are so many things that go along with communicating that is not applied with just being a property owner, managing a debt service. I made a video today talking about how just because you're a homeowner doesn't mean that you're a landlord. Landlord is a business. Homeowners sometimes find themselves, ironically, accidental landlords, having to put on the load of learning all of these things that make up what a landlord is and kind of winging it. But winging it costs a lot of money. It just costs too much to wing it.
Hmm.
And you might be a construction worker. I'm not expecting the construction worker to speak with a trained and seasoned vernacular. I'm not saying that the words have to sound smarty. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying that the words must be welcoming and sound such a way that it's inviting further understanding of their needs to see if it matches your requirements without sounding too invasive or upfront, or what people say today, pushy. So I'm going to get back to the list. No automation, no checklist. We have that follow there's a structure in how to do this. We have a system around that, and yes, some people don't have that. It goes really well with the tenant tracker, so we want to make sure that folks have that readily available. Matter of fact, if lucky enough, this video should have in a description, or if this is going to our school program, they'll be able to go to the school program and go to the third unit, the third classroom, and then get the tenant tracker. If it's in YouTube, if this is on YouTube as a video, we'll have in a description at the bottom there a link to school so you can have the deal tracker. I'm sorry, the tenant tracker.
As well as like if for California specific people that end up on this video, they'll be able to have a list of all of the recent rules that came out in 2025. So if you're not aware of those and you're not aware in depth or where to find them, or if you've if you're currently in compliance, then you'll be able to pick it up there. So that way you can avoid getting into trouble.
That makes up the whole list there. I think I kind of combined the automation checklist with the lead tracker, which really worked out well because again, they go hand in hand. You don't want to have one without the other. You don't want to have a tracker and not know what to do with the people that's in there. It's a business. You want to know how to properly follow up with people. You want to follow the system in such a way that it maximizes your opportunities so you don't leave anybody that's in that pipeline out to dry. No,
Yeah.
yeah, that was a great way to start this video off, man. We just winging it, and we don't like to wing it. But that
Yeah.
was
No,
just the
I
hardest
mean, for
part, man.
me,
That
I
was
feel like
dope.
there's a lot to talk about, so it's hard for me to just dive in and pick one because my mind wandered a little bit on one of the biggest things that I see that people that you call like all the time. A lot of these people have their phone number up on Zillow, and yet when you call, there's still a huge portion of people that don't answer the phone, and it's because they're busy. And I get that. I totally get that. But when you're trying to take in the best lead possible, it's not about because I feel like people don't take the call because they're busy and they don't think that the the reward of picking up every single call is higher than how busy they are. Because it's not like are you busy or you're not busy, it's how busy are you and how important is the thing that you're doing in comparison to picking up the possible client or your possible tenant's phone call, right? So if you're doing something that's kind of occupying your time and then you get a call from a possible tenant, first off, hopefully you know that that's a call for a possible tenant. Hopefully you're putting a phone number up that allows you to go, oh, this is coming from Zillow. So it's probably a tenant. Okay, that's one, right? Hopefully you know that. And so when you're looking at that and deciding whether or not to pick it up, you're going, is what I'm doing now more important than possibly getting somebody through the door of my apartment, of my unit? And there's so many people saying, no, it's not as important. That baffles me. That baffles my mind. I do think that's because they think that, well, I'm already getting a lot of leads. No, you're not. Trust me, you're not. If you're getting 5 a day, that's not a lot. That's like a standard thing. People think that just because they are getting inquiries from like a Zillow, that it means like they get 10 people to raise their hand and say, I want to potentially live there. That doesn't mean 10 people are interested, actually interested in the way that you want them to be, to come and live in your unit. It doesn't mean that. It means that when they were doom scrolling last night, they looked at your place and was like, it would be cool to live there. And it's like
Ugh.
they're laying in the chair, mind numb from the day that just went by. Zillow essentially makes it so easy that it's like grabbing their phone for them, putting it underneath their finger, and all they have to do is this boop, and sent you, I'm interested. Zillow makes it look like to you is like, we got one. We got one. He's ready, packed up right now. He's got the moving truck. All you need to do is hit reply, and money just comes out of the air. Zillow makes you feel like that, but that's not true. It could be further from the truth. And I know you then experience
It's
it
like they
by,
don't know that there's an automated message in the notification that is sent out. Like, I am interested in your property, XYZ. Like they, as a realtor, you guys probably experience this as landlords. When you're getting these messages, people are not texting you, I am interested in this, unless they go into that message box and give you something that you haven't seen before. And even then, when you're reaching back out to these folks, ask yourself, how many properties has this one person who probably has a timeline to get out of their property, that probably has 4 or 5 other homes that they also like, if not the same, then more than yours, that probably has their wife's consideration to think about and whether or not this is even a good fit. They probably made the decision without even saying anything to the partner. There's so many elements. It's you think that you have the yes from just the notification because you're getting 5 notifications a day. Now, those are 5 people that are saying, I saw your property, and who knows, maybe if you call me back, maybe I'll still be here. And even when they're still there and you go and tour that place with them, the backyard just didn't look the same on the picture. The picture will never represent the property. We know that. But you did a bad job. You misrepresented your property. It's your fault, landlord. Why would you take such a great photo of that kitchen? It looked larger than what it was supposed. I looked at the photo. It looked like it can fit 20 people in the kitchen.
and that's where that conversation, those conversational skills come out. And what it brought, when you saw the property on Zillow, what was it about the property that kind of caught your eye, if anything? Well, the kitchen. It was like you said, you don't expect a construction worker to come out of thin air with this line. It's because they don't need to. They don't. That's not their specialty. So they don't.
That's not their
And they
skill.
don't feel like they need to until they run into these problems repeatedly and don't understand why. So it's like asking that question, they'll give you the answer, and then you'll be able to probe and clarify further to figure out, like, oh, wait, this person thought from the pictures that there was this in the kitchen, and I know that there is not. And so that's when you ask them the question. It's like, what if I told you there was X, Y, Z, and ABC probably wouldn't even matter because you're looking for just this specifically. They would say, "No, it's just a nice to have." And so if it's not in there, like, we're still looking for this place because, and I like it because, and then you dig deeper to see why they would want to live there in the first place. Because if it's just, yeah, I'm looking for a place, why? Moving.
So I want to add
Okay,
on to that. Can I piggyback over that?
let's do it.
When Mr. Construction Worker, when he's put some time into putting those stones into the driveway and he's did a really nice job decorating the room with a specific paint color that is a little expensive. It's not a normal color. Put the stone countertops in that he spent a lot of time and energy putting in. Spent a lot of money in doing all of those things too.
Hmm.
I mean, it's for him through the lens of his eyes. It's obvious why they're coming to this property. It's it's apparent. So it's why should I even have to ask this wildly ridiculous question? It's obvious. But that's the reason why, as a trained salesperson, we take ourselves out of we're unbiased. The plain language is we're unbiased. We want to make sure that people say things out loud, why they are interested, not the fact that there was blood, equity, time spent on whatever it is you spent fixing, cleaning, building, whatever it is. Because from their lens, they probably didn't even see it, and it probably wasn't that important for them.
Yeah, because I
But
know I know my
I could
worth isn't.
understand why you would miss that.
Yeah, I know how much my house is worth is not a metric. It doesn't help anybody.
I want to be rude, but it's hard for me to because I'm like, you guys are my constituents, man. You guys, I get it. But let me be blunt. Can I be blunt with you? Can I be blunt? Who cares what you think, property owner?
Yeah,
That's the reality.
it's about what the
I mean,
market cares about, and they know that they know that, and I think it's just that's kind of like the defensive maneuver. But then the next step that we walk through with people is if the market doesn't respond even after doing all the tips and tricks and because there's no magic bullet, and I'm sure they know that, but there's things that you can do to position your property such that it is the obvious choice. But after you run through all that carousel of different things that you can do to position your market in the best way possible with what you're given, and that doesn't work, then you have to come to the table with that conversation. And that conversation looks like, hey, look, market says no. And so we have to reposition. That doesn't always mean like,
reposition.
you know, price cut and blah, blah. It doesn't always mean that. But take, for example, right? When we went to, remember that property we went to is so beautiful and it was amazing. And and there was immediately there was like you could see cracks, you could see problems with the doors, the locking mechanism on the door. You
Um,
can see like
I
these
was gonna
minor
say facetiously, Roger, what are you
misalignments.
talking about? We see homes all the time, but I think I know what you're talking about now.
Yeah, no, I'm talking about this one specifically because if you looked at this house and only looked at this house in comparison to all the other houses that were not recently built, you would be like, this is a no-brainer. This house is amazing. It's, I mean, how much was it? It was like originally a 4 million, a place to put up for
Something
four
up there,
million.
up there,
Yeah. And then the
something
other
up
house
there.
down the road that was slightly priced a little bit less, it didn't have those same problems. And so it's like the client that we were with was talking about, yeah, you know, the other house doesn't have these things that you're pointing out, Rodra. And you're like, yeah, yeah. But when you guys were having that conversation, I was just thinking, like, it doesn't matter how good the house looks, how expensive it is, and what expensive neighborhood it is, and all of that stuff. People that were in charge of this project were kind of trying to allude to. It doesn't matter about that. What matters is that there's somebody down the street who's their competitor who just happened to, I guess, pay better contractors or have people come in that were a little bit better at doing the job than they were. And they made that house look so spectacular that they did physical positioning of the house such that it was the obvious choice. And so sometimes you get put in a situation where even though you have to play the market as a whole, you have to play the market as not only as a whole, but in the city, not only in the city, but on that street,
Very
not only on that
specific,
street, but
niche
next.
down, niche down.
Yeah. You have to keep going narrow until you see like, hey, it's obvious here, it's obvious here, it's obvious here, and it's obvious here. And if you missed one of those, you will feel it. And then you'll have to reassess.
You will feel the consequences of those actions. Man,
Yeah.
never been more true. Never been more true.
Yeah, and it sucks because it wasn't totally their fault either. It was just like I said, that guy on that street, he's done several houses before, and he's just good at what he does. And the people that decided to enter that submarket of a submarket of submarket just kind of they got beat up.
They assumed, they thought they can copy paste their way into a couple $1 million. But as you
I
can
mean, hats
see,
off.
it's something about, yeah, give credit to where it's due. The person who went out there and got those 4 other homes and turned a old-fashioned home into a modern beast of a home. You gotta tip your hat to them.
Yeah, I don't want to make it seem like the only thing that we do look at is single family homes because that one specifically was a single family home. Um, Most of our clients have multiple doors in one location and all over the city too and whatnot. But it was just an example I was pulling from of positioning of market. I mean, there's another case too that I'm not too familiar with. You're closer to that case than I am. But basically, it was, how are you? It's like, how are you charging that much for rents when one of my units got rented out for this? And it's like, there's something called false positives. You just because you get one unit rented out at something from like a special program doesn't mean all your units now get rented out for that, and you change your backup napkin underwriting to it's yeah, it's called inflating your numbers. So don't do that. It's
Yeah,
basically
man, we
what I
can
was getting.
always make look, I was a great point. I was talking about this earlier when it comes to underwriting a deal. You can always make a deal look like it could work. Always. That's what the market is struggling with today. When people underwrote their deals a few years ago and now their loans are coming due for refinance and they didn't consider such a high interest rate, we we're facing this underwriting in a positive, overly optimistic, fail proof way
Hmm.
that when it's time to face the reality, it's like a big surprise. When all you have to do is when you are conservative from the beginning, you find out that you can make more deal. What is he talking about? Make more money on the
With that
deal.
deal.
But the point is you can make more money being conservative than being overly optimistic because you find out you didn't need to have such a high expense ratio. You weren't going to use 50%, you're going to use 45. You wasn't going to have to use that much money on the rental costs. You saved 200,000. There is so much you could do when you properly underwrite a deal. And
Hmm.
that's because you don't want to overexpose yourself. You underwrite conservatively so that way when you get more money, you can pat yourself on the back and say, "Boom, I did a good job. Who
But
knew Rodrigo was so
how do you
sophisticated?"
know what numbers to use? Are you going to be helping people out with this exact example? And how many tens of thousands of dollars are you going to charge to help somebody save a couple million?
Oh, well, Roger, look, man, that's a question I get all the time. And let me tell you something. I've grown such a big no, I'm just kidding. Let me just be honest. There is a service that Roger and I are giving you guys as just participants of school interactions between us and YouTube. If you want to participate with us, totally fine and fair. We're welcoming you guys to. We will do free underwriting for deals. Of course, if you want to bring an NDA, bring it. We don't plan on taking deals from you. We just want to give you an unbiased eye to help you look at a deal from a lens that has zero interest in the property. Now, if this helps you out, wonderful, because the last thing you want to do is look at a property from a DSCR's point of view and think that that's the end all and be all, or think of the cap rate as the end all and be all. That's your total solution to finding a perfect deal or your gross rent. We don't want you to look at a deal and then 5 years later realize that you've not only costs yourself time because you spent the time on that property, money, and being unable to use that money on a different opportunity because you're locked in for a long haul when you could have just sat down with us, shot the shit over the deal that you're interested in to make sure that you're not wasting your time, energy, and effort. And excuse my French.
Yeah,
Don't mean
and
to cuss on here.
it's not like you have to come with a full-blown address like you were talking about. It's just about plugging numbers and saying like, "Hey, maybe you didn't
Yeah.
consider this strategy before." Because we've spoke to people, it's like, "Yeah, no, I when I first got into this, I was just gonna plan on keeping it forever, but forever ain't forever. So I might give it to my kids, or maybe I'm not gonna give it to my kids because I don't trust them. So I want it to go this way. I want to be able to take it out and
Yeah.
move it to something else, or I want to put it in an entity that's
Yeah.
going to pay out to my kids, or I'm just going to sell everything." Like, you don't know, you might not know 100% what the path is that you're going to go. And looking at the numbers will definitely help you to decide that, and definitely help you to see what actual buffers you should have on everything, like you were alluding to earlier. And so it's really avatar specific. So you get to determine what avatar you want to be, or I should say profile. And Roger, is it possible for us to soon unlock the videos that show, hey, if you are maximizing for this, this is what you should do. This is what the metric you should be paying attention to. Is that something that we could kind of promise to the person watching, that we can roll that out?
I do not mind rolling out that kind of a content. I just want to make sure that we're on the same page. Maybe by the time we get off of here, you and I can kind of come up with a game plan, a timeline in which it makes sense for us to do something like that. But the more the merrier. The more that people have access to data, the better off they're going to be. And if you're in this group, if you are around us, don't we don't want you around us losing money. That don't make us feel good. So if we have to make sure that we're extending our services so that you can maximize your efforts to make profit, by all means, utilize the services. We're telling you it's free, which we probably should be charging thousands of dollars. But being honest, I think that will make such better impact by just being a resource to you. So
Yeah, because
that's
I
our
do want to
offer.
add
That's our
something,
pitch
if I may.
deck.
Yeah, so it basically, the calculators that we are using have helped to make other people a lot of money. And so that's kind of all in depth on that, um, that I'll go. But just know that it costs us a lot of money to put into getting this calculator, and it's helped a lot of people make a lot of money. So it's not something that we just made on a whim, or some type of gimmick or trick. And so because we've already helped some people use it who got a significant amount of doors. And now we're just finally saying we want to make that kind of public, but we're doing it in a way that it doesn't put anybody in a compromising position. That way they don't reveal their hand to the world. And so we just wanted to plug in numbers and get out of it some numbers that will mean something to the person, getting the deal underwritten.
That's on the receiving end of that. That's right. So here, let me make sure I say this and make it clear. I think what you said, Roger, earlier was you don't have to reveal the specific property location.
Mhm.
If you need a conversation around the market location, that's a different skill, that's a different tier level of conversation that we are willing to provide. Roger and I will work out a tier system so that way we can go over numbers versus specific deal consultation and market considerations and all these kind of things that are involved in underwriting a deal. We're only talking about the numbers. Second, if this is something that you're interested in, we don't mind showing you what we're doing and having your input. The one thing that we cannot promise is handing you over a calculator because it has a whole bunch of legal ramifications that we don't want to get into. You can also buy the tool yourself. We can point you to the tool if that's what you'd like to learn. But just simply having surgical tools doesn't make you a doctor. And so, if this is something that you're interested in having, I can point you to where you can find it. And if you feel that being more learned or trained on that topic, we don't mind sharing how you can use the information, the calculator, to better position yourself in the future. But again, the idea here is simple: use the resources that you have, network in the meantime, and if you feel like there's something more specific or nuanced that you want to go over on a specific deal, we'll have some sort of service or tier level system that can allow you to have those conversations in a trusted environment.
And by the way, just like as an add-on too, I know we're gonna just keep piggybacking here until oblivion, but we have other professionals on there too, like other people that make a lot of money doing whatever it is that they do in real estate that is around this topic. Like it's not just us. There's people already there. Like don't think you're gonna be the first one in there.
Yeah.
Like there's already people in there. And so it's kind of hard to find each other. And so we just wanted to create an island of people and make it like a party. And hey, you're invited to the party as long as you're in the field. Like it's like we don't want to invite random people. We just want to invite people that share the same vision, really. And so if that's you, find your way there or not. It's up to you. On that note, Roger, I think this has been a good bit of information. I do want to get into specifics in future videos, but I think this will have to do for now. What do you think?
And people don't know how hard you work, Roger. It's 12:30 midnight. Do your thing, Chief. I appreciate your time.